And of course, leave it to the Democrats to always leave themselves open for not only a gut punch, but a chin shot at the same time. So over the course of a bridged weekend, Donald Trump got the support of two former prominent Democrats in both RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. So we're going to show you now just how you steal all the thunder away from the Democrats in one fell swoop.
It's brilliant.
And the fact that there are people who still deny Trump's political savviness, my God.
He's been lining up RFK and Tulsi Gabbard to go right, so he had it all during the Democratic convention.
So that Kamala can't hold any momentum at all.
It's beautiful.
We'll start with RFK.
I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in.
Corrupts the whole enterprise. So my last question, what happens now? You had this kind of amazing announcement with Donald Trump on Friday. It's now Monday, I think, which is 3 days ago. How do you spend from here until Election Day?
I'm going to work to get him elected. And I'm working with the campaign. We're working on policy issues together. I've been asked to go onto the transition team and, to help pick the people who will be running the government. And,
one thing that Jen was saying while we had it on mute, and I agree.
You do?
Tucker Carlson probably does have a very nice log cabin up in Maine.
I'm sitting here looking at that. I'm like, I want that studio. I want to be there.
It really looks nice.
It does.
It's just, the wood and you look at the throw blankets, you need them out already when you're all the way up in Maine. Just these little things that you see.
This is all just really good marketing, all of it.
Well, that's just what Jen was saying, Jimmy Zim Zam, Health and Human Services.
I think that, I don't know how many of you also watch Kim Iverson, but that was her call. I think it's smart when he accepted that, or he came out to give Trump the endorsement. He did speak specific, about what his agenda is and what his mission is. So it would make sense for him to get a cabinet position as Director of Health and Human Services. And quite honestly, I like that. That doesn't bother me. The idea of somebody who is skeptical and anti-big pharma and all that, that is kind of who I want overseeing corporate pharma ventures like the CDC and the NIH. It would certainly
be a hell of a lot better than where the hell we are right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But here for me is the biggest issue with RFK, which is why if I supported him for anything, it would be for this reason, and that's housing.
Average home in our country 2 years ago was $215,000. Mm-hmm. Today it's $400,000. And so kids today, like your kids and my kids, are never going to buy a home. There's three big companies, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. These are the biggest companies.
So the one mistake that RFK is making here in his statement is that it's not BlackRock when it comes to homes. That's Blackstone. BlackRock is basically, they're two separate multinational corporations.
Both garbage.
Same concept. Same similar concept.
Okay, my boy tried to explain it to me, and now it's sort of like the point spread. I'm never going to understand it. I don't care. BlackRock, Blackstone, they're both bad, so it doesn't really matter.
No, but they are terrible. And I've always said that the best thing that RFK did running for president was bring attention to the fact that the biggest private equity giants in this country, including Blackstone, which is a big donor to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they are buying up all of the single-family homes in this country. By the end of this decade, if they stay on this trajectory, they will own 60% of the single-family homes in this country. You want to talk about never being able to build wealth ever and basically have a majority serfs class in this country? That's where we're headed with our current political and economic system. And say what you want about RFK, call him a kook all you want. He is 1,000% correct about this issue. And it's one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest, economically, that we are going to be dealing with. And we are. And it sucks. We'll finish it up.
Those three companies own 88% of the S&P 500. Wow. So they basically just own everything. And now what they've decided is they want to own every single family home in our country. Klaus Schwab says, famously, he says, under the Great Reset, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. They pay nothing for money. Their credit is so impeccable.
Oh, I see. They have like 900.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they got the better than the best credit rating.
But isn't that like privatized communism or something? That's what it feels like.
Well, yeah, it's like socialism for the rich, and this barbaric, merciless, ruthless, savage.
He's talking like Bernie Sanders. That's exactly who he's talking like. And a lot of people always said that the reason why Bernie didn't win was because he was too much of a grunt.
No,
he didn't appeal.
He didn't win because he was cheated.
Well, he was cheated. There's no question. But there was always
because people are stupid.
Well, then we have that problem as well. And I do think a lot of people that were really on board with what Bernie was doing, they just became completely disillusioned, as you're seeing right now, as you've seen over the course of the show this evening. How people have become disillusioned, not just with the Democratic Party, but with the entire electoral process. They're like, well, what the hell's the point? We're getting screwed no matter what. Who do we look to that's going to help us? And it's not like voting for Jill Stein or Dr. Cornel West is going to solve it because they have no real infrastructure.
No, but that is sort of part of my strategy. Can I address this? This is important right here. It's not a vape. I don't vape. I smoke. All right. I digress.
I believe that is it.
Okay.
But JD Party has a very good question, Den.
What is it?
Why is RFK so bad on Palestine?
I don't know. There's a lot of variables. I don't know. Has he always been? I don't know enough about his history before, I really don't know. Like, what's his ideology? I mean, he's Catholic, but then he isn't Catholic. He's been other things, right? Like, didn't he leave, or is he still Catholic?
No, he's always been Catholic.
He's always Catholic. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that
Rabbi Shmuley.
Well, he's up Rabbi Shmuley's Tukas, but I think that
I haven't seen him with him though.
No, I think that but I think that it might come from that when he was called out as anti-Semitic about what he was saying about the coronavirus, about the COVID stuff, that he wasn't. He was citing a study, but Debbie was the one who called him out. And I think after that, his pendulum swung so far. I don't know. Is it
Colin,
that? Is it ideology?
Colin,
maybe it's
why
just
didn't
Zionist.
you didn't get any clip of RFK talking at all in terms
but
of
he is so wrong about Palestine.
Yeah, when he made his speech, his introduction, or when he was announcing that he was going to be stepping down, or even when he spoke at Trump's rally, but he makes some very salient points, and I can certainly see why people find him appealing.
And let me tell you, what he says about sugar, processed foods, our healthcare system, how the agriculture business is all
1,000% correct.
Yes. And so
not even up for debate.
Right. And so if somebody like him was in an executive branch position that was dealing with those things, yes.
That's why
somebody will stand up to big sugar and things like that and be like, yeah.
And that's why they had to smear the shit out of him. And that's why he makes statements like this. This will be the last that we will address the RFK for Trump situation.
Also, then he'd be only domestic. That's the other thing.
16 months ago, in April of 2023, I launched my campaign for President of the United States.
First of all, who in the fuck adjusted the audio on his speaking? That is absolutely crazy. I don't know where you got that one from, Colin, but that is clearly not him talking. That is an adjustment.
I know, but I kind of like it. It's easier to understand.
All right, fine.
I began this journey as a Democrat, the party of my father, my uncle, the party which I pledged my own allegiance to long before I was old enough to vote. Right. I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights, The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. When it abandoned democracy by canceling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president, I left the party to run as an independent. The mainstream of American politics and journalism derided my decision. Conventional wisdom said that it would be impossible even to get on the ballot as an independent because each state poses an insurmountable tangle of arbitrary rules for collecting signatures. I would need over 1 million signatures, something no presidential candidate in history had ever achieved. And then I'd need a team of attorneys and millions of dollars to handle all the legal challenges from the DNC. The naysayers told.
This is also the thing that I don't think people are talking about enough. The Democratic Party, who we have seen, they did it to Matthew Hoh in North Carolina.
Yes.
They do it to Jill Stein. They do it to Dr. Cornel West, and they sure as fuck did it to RFK. They are the ones who move heaven and earth to kick people off of ballots.
They subvert
just
democracy.
lose their shit when Trump beats them at their own game. Because this is what they do.
And by the way, they are currently fighting right now. Jill Stein has battles with them in several states.
And let me assure you, them going after RFK and dismissing him and saying he's a joke and this, that, and the other thing, let me tell you, they are shitting in their fucking pants that he did this. That he actually was like, I'm actually going to fuck you over now. And he is, because he's got support. He has real support, and you all know he does because he was polling very strong, as high as 20%. At various times. So to suggest that that voter isn't out there that's going to say, you know what, I ain't doing this shit with the Democrats anymore. Eventually, you're going to thumb enough people in the eye where they're just going to say, I'll take Trump. I'll have a second helping of Trump.
Because
thank you very much.
The problem is that, you know, it's hard to fault him. You know how I feel about him is sort of the same way I felt about Scott Israel down here. Like, forget what your thoughts about them are, how they're treated by the apparatus, by the machine, how they're like with him, with Scott, there was no due process and he was just removed. It's like, this is very authoritarianism. The fact that they didn't have a primary, and this is a problem. I find, and I also want to say that I find him and I don't know him. I've not met him. I know people who worked on the campaign said it's not a very good environment. I don't know anything. But, you know, kudos to him for being consistent. And he has been consistent on the things that he's about. And kudos to him for being consistent, even when his family are just shills and for the party. And again, I don't agree. He's not my candidate. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, specifically foreign policy. So no, he's not my candidate, but he tried to run in the primary. So the fact that this is what they treated him so undemocratically that it really does go against all the values of a democracy at this point, that it is ridiculous. So
the one thing, that a lot of people are forgetting in this instance is that it's not a question of them endorsing Trump. This is more of a fuck you to the Democratic Party. It's the same thing with Tulsi. It's the same thing with him, and we'll get to Tulsi in a minute.
Okay, but we have to go back to also what position he might be in. Well, how much longer is this?
Like maybe a couple minutes.
Okay.
We were climbing a glass version of Mount Impossible. So the first thing I want to tell you is that we proved them wrong. We did it because beneath the radar of mainstream media organs, we inspired a massive independent political movement. More than 100,000 volunteers sprang into action, hopeful that they could reverse our nation's decline. Many worked 10-hour days, sometimes in blizzards and blazing heat. They sacrifice family time, personal commitments, and sleep month after month, energized by a shared vision of a nation healed of its divisions. They set up tables at churches and farmers markets. They canvassed door to door. In Utah and in New Hampshire, volunteers collected signatures in snowstorms, convincing each supporter to stop in the frigid cold, to take off their gloves, and to sign legibly. During a heat wave in Nevada, I met a tall, athletic volunteer who cheerfully told me that he had lost 25 pounds collecting signatures in 117-degree heat. To finance this effort, young Americans donated their lunch money, and senior citizens gave up their part of their Social Security checks. Our 50-state organization collected those millions of signatures and more. No presidential campaign in American political history has ever done that. And so I want to thank all of those dedicated volunteers and congratulate the campaign staff who coordinated this enormous logistical feat. Your accomplishments were regarded as impossible. You carried me up that glass mountain. You pulled off a miracle. You achieved what all the pundits said could never be done. You have my deepest gratitude, and I'm never going to forget that, not just for what you did for my campaign, but for the sacrifices you made because you love our country.
He's right.
And you could tell he is trying to hold back tears right now because he knows these people sacrificed so much of their lives to get him there. And the Democratic Party said, go fuck yourself. We make the rules. We run the show, and we will make your life a living hell. And we've got all the money in the world to put you through legal hell in order to do it. And that's what they did.